Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 19th of March, now it's 1:30 middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There is quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me once again emphasize how grateful I am for your time, attention and support. It truly does mean a lot to me, so thank you very much. Same time, if I may, I will announce that in few hours time I will upload on Patreon a new update. As I promised, I went to Moscow and make some video footage which will be part of today's update. Also, I will answer to questions that I received during the previous week, including questions about ODKB, that's a kind of Russian answer to NATO, military alliance of few former Soviet republics, including Russian Federation. I will talk about relationships between BRICS member states, especially about relationships between China and India and how can Russia influence these relationships in a good way. I will talk about plans that I have about developing this channel and also a page on the Patreon and some other questions. I will answer on some other questions also. I hope it will be interesting. So now let's talk about news and make this update for YouTube. So first news that I like to share with you is about yesterday's surprise visit of President of Russian Federation Vladimir Putin to Crimea and Donbass region. He has quite a busy day yesterday, and this is a kind of answer on the rumors that Western elites and Western propaganda is trying to push that Putin is already dead or will die today or tomorrow. Probably you are familiar with this nonsense that Western media is sharing with society. So yesterday Putin was very active, and he went to Crimea. He had some meetings with Crimean officials and with organizations that are active in Crimea. And then he flew by helicopter to Mariupol. As you know, this town, Mariupol, experienced fierce fighting between Russian and Ukrainian forces, and almost the entire city was ruined. And since Russia established full control over the Mariupol, Moscow is they doing as much as possible probably to rebuild town. And I will show you some residential areas that already have been built from scratch, because many buildings were so much damaged that they could not be restored. So Russian side made decisions to build new residential apartments, and you can see, you can Google it basically, but that's basically photo evidence. This is all Mariupol. All these pictures are about Mariupol. So Russian side is doing as much as possible at this moment probably to rebuild this city. Putin went in Mariupol not just to talk with the officials of this town, but also to talk with residents of Mariupol. And he even, I did saw a video that he went to one of the residential areas that has been rebuilt, and he had talks with just ordinary residents in Mariupol. They are very pro-Russian, and they are very thankful for Russia for everything that was done to reunite this town with Russia. As I said, majority of population in eastern and southern parts of Ukraine are Russians, and if anyone will allow, for example, referendum to be held in Kharkov region or in Odessa region, or in the Dnipropetrovsk region, I'm quite sure 70-80% of population will vote to join Russian Federation. I have no doubts about it. Maybe even more, maybe 90%, because they are Russians. They see themselves as a part of Russian world, and even though West, you're not gonna hear anything like it in the Western media. That's a simple fact. That's simple true, basically. So yesterday, after Crimea and Mariupol, Putin visited the headquarters of Russian Special Military Operation. He had meeting with the head of Russian General Staff and the commander of Special Military Operation, Gerasimov. We had a statement from Peskov, press spokesman of Putin, and he said that this visit to headquarters of Special Military Operation was not prepared, so because Putin wanted to see how headquarters is operating on a daily basis. I don't know if this information is 100% true. Maybe generals in headquarters knew that Putin will visit. I don't know. I don't know about anything. But if it's true, then it seems like Putin went with inspection to headquarters, not just to hear from generals about situation on the front line, but to check also level of professionalism of work, work that is going on in the headquarters. So he will probably make some decisions based on his judgment. And this is gonna be first block of news about Putin's visit in Crimea and Donbass. In next block, I will talk about. In next block, I will talk about Ukraine and special military operation. We have a report from TASS news agency, according to which, in previous 24 hours, Zelensky's regime once again tried to conduct some local-scale counteroffensive operation in Zaporozhye direction. As I was predicting, Zelensky's regime and Ukrainian armed forces are beginning to test the ground in southern direction, in direction of this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. It was obvious, not just me, but many other channels were talking about possibility of activization of Ukrainian armed forces in southern direction, and we are now definitely seeing this activization. We have almost every day reports about local scale offensives from Zelensky's regime in Kherson region, in Zaporozhye region, and in previous 24 hours, one of Zelensky's regime did conduct one more local scale counteroffensive unsuccessfully, but still this kind of operations does gives Zelensky's regime additional information about Russian defensive lines. So these operations are basically intelligence gathering operations. They are not even probably having go to or breach some Russian positions or to establish some new positions for themselves. They are trying to just gather information about defense lines of Russian Federation. It's just too obvious. But yet again, as I said many times before, no matter how hard Zelensky's regime will try, and no matter how hard Washington and London will push Zelensky to start offensive operation in any direction, basically, but especially in the southern direction, Zelensky will fail because Ukrainian armed forces have no chance to succeed in direct fight with the Russian forces. Let me continue with the situation in Bakhmut. As you can see, Even this pro-Ukrainian map is acknowledging that Bakhmut garnison is in big trouble. I'm a little bit surprised that this garnison not yet fully collapsed at this stage, but probably it's only a matter of days. We had many reports from different Telegram channels, especially from Ukraine, that in direction of Konstantinovka here, Zelensky's regime is accumulating large force of reinforcements. There were videos with tens of military vehicles, including armored personnel, carriers, and according to this information, this group of force is will be sent to deblockade Bakhmut. To be honest, I don't believe in this. I think this is part of this move from Zelensky's regime is just a part of information campaign, because it's obvious that they cannot withdraw forces from Bakhmut. As I said many times before, Bakhmut is encircled and they cannot withdraw forces without heavy losses. And because Zelensky and his Western masters in Washington or London don't want to ask Moscow for humanitarian corridor, they have no chance to withdraw forces from Bakhmut. And that's why they are now conducting this information campaign, that they are gathering forces in Kramatorsk, in Konstantinovka, to conduct large-scale counteroffensive in direction of Bakhmut and to deblockade this city. But this is all crap. I don't believe in this for a single minute. This is crap, because it's obvious if they will send more forces in direction of Bakhmut, then more forces will end up in Koldrum. More Ukrainian forces will end up in Koldrum. That's the only result they will receive. And that's why I don't believe that Zelensky's associates in Ukrainian armed forces, those so-called generals, are stupid enough to conduct such a crazy move. So as I understand, all these videos that we see with these tens of military vehicles, it's just information campaign. I'm not even sure that those videos truly were made in Konstantinovka or in Kramatorsk direction. Maybe those videos were made somewhere around Zaporozhye region, because here I do believe that in Zaporozhye direction, Zelensky's regime definitely are massing forces to conduct counteroffensive operation, and probably we will see counteroffensive. We will see that Zelensky's regime will try to conduct a large-scale counteroffensive in direction of this land bridge, which is, let's say, from Novaya Kakhovka and Energodar to Melitopol and Berdyansk, this area. And some reports even saying that Zelensky's regime may even simultaneously try counteroffensive in direction of Mariupol too, but yet again, for example, from Uglidar direction, which is right here, north side of Mariupol. But I just don't see that Zelensky's regime has even a slight chance to succeed with this counteroffensive, if it will take place. If it will even take place, because nowadays, we are seeing information campaigns from both sides, and we should take all information with a pinch of salt. So when it comes to some other areas of operations, it's usual stuff. Russian side was quite active in direction of Seversk, Krasny Liman, Yampol, and Donetsk direction is the same. Situation for Avdiivka become even more critical, and to be honest, I think Zelensky's regime is losing time to withdraw forces from Avdiivka, because it's only a matter of day or two. And just look at this. This is Avdiivka here, this town, and for comparison, look at Bakhmut. It's quite similar picture, isn't it? Of course, Ukrainian side don't have in Avdiivka such a forces or surrounding areas as much units, military units, as in direction of Bakhmut, Chasiv. But still, if Zelensky's regime will not withdraw forces from Avdiivka, from this area here, before end of next week, Avdiivka probably will be in operational encirclement, maybe even fully encircled, because operational encirclement is already happened. Once Russian side will take control over the Severna here, and this settlement, Tonenka, then we can say that Avdiivka is in encirclement. And of course, hot point is, as always, Marinka. But this town probably will be contested as long as Russian side will make decisive moves in direction of Avdiivka, in direction of Krasnogorovka, southern side of Avdiivka, and in direction of Ugledar. Once these main directions will be resolved, then there will be no much more reason for Zelensky's regime to hold on to this little part of Marinka, and the Ukrainian forces probably will be withdrawn from this area. So this is when it comes to a general situation on the front line. We have activization of Ukrainian armed forces in direction of Zaporozhye. That was predictable. I was predicting this kind of development. We have hot point in Donetsk direction, as always. Very active is direction of Krasny Liman, Seversk, Krasny Liman, Yampol, Seversk, and Bakhmut. Chasiv Bakhmut is, of course, also quite active. Also, we have information. That Ukrainian side did try to reinforce its units in direction of Kupiansk. But yet again, and Kupiansk is here. That's Kupiansk. This gray zone is entirely contested, and in Kupiansk we just had a few days ago information that forward units of Russian Federation did begin to establish control over the left bank of the Kupiansk. This town is divided by this river, Oskol River, and Russian side has begun to establish control over the part of city that are on the left bank. And Zelensky's regime is desperately trying to reinforce its units in Kupiansk direction also, but if we believe this report from TASS news agency, two such attempts were unsuccessful in previous 24 hours. But Zelensky's regime will definitely try to continue and to somehow reinforce units that are in Kupiansk. As I said many times before, it's becoming more and more obvious that Zelensky's regime has a big problem with manpower, and it's already obvious that Ukrainian armed forces, even though they are trying, they have some trouble to reinforce all the directions simultaneously. Because as I just mentioned, there are at least 3-4 very active directions on the front line, and Ukrainian armed forces need to reinforce all these directions same time keep defense positions on the rest of the front line. And this is becoming more and more difficult for Ukrainian armed forces. And once Russian Federation will establish full control over the Bakhmut, and this operation gonna be absolute devastation for Ukrainian armed forces when Russian side will establish control over Bakhmut and Chisov Yar. This will devastate Ukrainian armed forces so much so that I believe we will see then quite we will see a collapse of Ukrainian armed forces in many other directions also, because even now, if I read big picture correctly, even now morale in Ukrainian armed forces are quite low, and fighting spirit are on breaking point, on a level of breaking point. So once Russian side will make decisive moves in direction of Bakhmut, we will probably see beginning of collapse of Ukrainian armed forces in general, and that will be beginning of the end of Zelensky's regime. Let's continue, and now, if I may, I will advertise my channel a little bit. If you think this channel is interesting, if you think this channel is useful, has some potential, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, or subscribe to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box, and of course I will be, and I'm already very grateful for your attention and support. That's been said, let's continue now. Once again, this is RIA Novosti's report about Kupiansk direction, that Russian side did manage to repeal attempts from Zelensky's regime to reinforce garnison in Kupiansk and forces that are in surrounding areas. We have Kommersant News paper's report here about statements that Zelensky's regime made about decisions that was made in Germany, Denmark, Canada, France, and Estonia to announce about additional military support for Ukraine. And to be honest, I should say that these countries will support Zelensky's regime and Ukrainian neo-Nazis, because more weapons will be sent to Ukraine, more damage this country will take. So I don't see how these kind of moves are support of Ukraine or Ukrainian society. It's exactly the opposite. But as it was said many times before, West will fight this battle against Russia before very last Ukrainian. Before anyone in Ukraine is willing to fight for the Western interests, West will be very much happy to send weapons to them. Let's continue. This is TASS News Agency's report, which is based on article in Financial Times that European manufacturers are experiencing difficulties to cope with demand for ammunition that is sent to Ukraine. I cannot say that this is a very new information or surprised information. We do have information about difficulties in military-industrial complex of Western Europe or in continental Europe for many months now. It's obvious that Western economies were not ready to supply Ukrainian armed forces with such a big volume of weaponry and ammunition. But once again, this kind of articles in Western media, in my opinion, is preparation of ground for to minimize damage for the Western elites once Russian side will emerge victorious from this conflict, and that's inevitable. As I said many times, from this conflict, Russia will emerge victorious. No other chances. Russia has to win this battle, not just for its own survival, but for the rest of the world, because Russia is at this point, at this moment, Russia is the only country that directly in a fight with the globalists, with these criminal globalists and criminal Western elites in general. So Russia is fighting not just for itself, but Russia is basically fighting for rest of the world, outside of West at least. But even then, I'm quite sure, if not majority, at least huge parts of societies in the Western states are seeing very well what is happening in reality, and that's why Russia has supporters in the Western countries, also because they see that Russia is the only state right now that are in real time fighting against globalists. And that's true, isn't it? So this is gonna be this second block of this update, and now I will make third block. Okay, let's continue now, and in this block I will start with this news from RIA Novosti news agency about Pentagon's decision to resume flights of drones close to Crimean Peninsula and close to Russian borders in general. As you know, US actively using drones to gather intelligence data, and then this information has been shared with Zelensky's regime. So Moscow don't really have a choice in this case, and because US conducting such hostile moves, Moscow will probably will be forced to deal with this situation, and in the coming days or weeks we may see yet another accident with the US drones. But this is inevitable, probably. As long as US is acting hostile towards Russia, Russia will defend itself. So it's quite bad news, really, quite bad news, because by this, with this activity of Washington, we are getting one step closer to direct confrontation between Russia and the USA. And many experts now even saying that direct confrontation between Russia and the Russian forces and US forces is almost inevitable, which is a great danger, of course, not just for parties that will be involved in this conflict, but also for the rest of the world. So once again, I hope in 2024 US citizens will deal with the neocons and neoliberals and help adequate people in Republican Party to take control over the White House. That's probably only chance we have right now. When I say we, I mean human society, humankind in this world, to somehow avoid direct confrontation between Russia and the US. But 2024 is too far away. Biden administration may provoke direct conflict between two sides in coming months, in 3 to 5 months' time. So, Quite a troubling times, really. Let's continue now. Let's continue, and this is still RIA Novosti news agency is reporting about statements that head of German's justice minister Marco Buschmann made, and he said that if Putin, basically he said that if Putin will visit Germany, he will be arrested. And this is crazy, of course. This is crazy, of course, because it's just impossible to conduct nowadays any relationships with Germany, because foreign minister of Germany is just something special, isn't it? This Annalena Baerbock. She's probably worst foreign minister that Germany ever had. And now we have statements from German justice minister, and this is political statement, very much political statement. And after this kind of words from Berlin, it's obvious for Moscow that relationships between Russia and Germany are done for a long time. For a long time. Putin will not visit Germany for probably ever. But ever again, he was, visiting Germany quite a few times in past, but he will definitely not visit Germany anytime soon. But still, these kind of statements are too low level, and I find it hard to believe that German society is coping with this kind of stupid individuals in their government. It's just unbelievable. You cannot take this kind of statement seriously. I mean, how can I comment seriously about these words from Marco Buschmann? Who the hell is him? And he's just a disgrace of German society. That's it. And this is TASS News Agency's report. And by the way, we will probably hear similar statements from many other Western countries also. Even though they know very well Putin will not visit Western states, they know it, isn't it? But they will, just to keep this anti-Russian hysteria in the Western media, and to keep push this Western xenophobic, racist and Russophobic narrative, they will make these kind of statements one after another, that they will arrest Putin if he will visit. And who are you, for God's sake, man? Just who are you? Nothing. But that's the level of Western political elite nowadays, and it's more problem for Western societies than problem for Russia, to be honest. Let's continue now, and we have a report from TASS News Agency about statement that former US President Donald Trump made. According to him, he may be arrested on 21st of March. I find difficult to believe that White House, Biden administration, truly so crazy that they will arrest Trump. This will create a huge destabilization in the US, because Trump is one of the most popular politicians in history of USA. Not just in nowadays, but in entire history of USA. He's very popular, and if anything happens to him, I'm quite sure many his supporters will receive it very badly. And who knows what will happen in that case. So let's see, today is 19th, so in today's time we will see what will happen. But to be honest, I think probably there are some adequate people in Biden's administration, and they will not allow this kind of craziness to happen. Even if they are absolutely sure that Trump will defeat Biden or any other candidate from neocons and neoliberals in coming presidential elections, and he will definitely defeat any candidate from so-called Democratic Party. I have no doubts about it. That's why it's very dangerous times for Trump, because who knows what these crazy neoliberals and neocons will do. They may even try to kill Trump, not just arrest, but they may even try to kill him, because they are scared that they will not just lose White House, but they will lose grip over the USA, over the state institutions. And in that case, so-called Democrats are done for a long time. So let's continue now. This is RIA Novosti's report about some demonstrations, anti-war demonstrations that took place in Washington. And this time reasoning was that it was exactly the day when US started invasion of Iraq. To commemorate this date of US invasion of Iraq, and it's nice to see that at least in some parts of US society this anti-war movement is live and trying to gather some momentum, because let's be direct, man. US is one of the most important states, most important countries in this world, and it's in everyone's interest on this planet if USA will have adequate government, and if US elites will truly care about interests of US citizens, and if they will truly care about reputation of the USA in the world. Because as I said many times before, even though right now US is acting very hawkishly against Russia, towards Russia, I don't want to see USA as a state, as an enemy. I do very well understand that it's all about US elites. It's about all these neoliberal idiots that are damaging not just relationships between Russia and USA, but they are actively damaging interests of US citizens. That's how crazy they are. So if they don't care about their own citizens, of course they don't care about relationships between US and any other country. So that's why these kind of movements are very very important, and next presidential election will have probably, huge importance for the rest of the world, not just for USA, but for the rest of the world, because Trump and DeSantis, major candidates from Republican Party, openly are saying that they are against current policies of Biden's White House, which is directed on confrontation towards Russia. So let's see how things develop. But this is, even though only a few hundred people did participate in this demonstration, anti-war demonstration, it's a step forward anyway. So it's a good news. Let's continue now. A few more news about some economical developments, and this is it for today's update for YouTube. And we have Kommersant newspaper's report, which is based on an article in Bloomberg, according to which First Citizens Bank may become owner of Silicon Valley. This one of the biggest banks in the USA that went bankrupt just recently. As I understand, White House, Washington, and financial state financial institutions of US are trying to somehow deal with these banking issues, with this quite devastating developments. in the banking sector. And as I said quite a few times before, of course, Washington will be able to deal with this situation, not just with Silicon Valley, but with situation in the banking sector as a whole. That's why they will give 165 billion to US banks to stabilize situation. But once again, this kind of development shows you how fragile even US economy is, major economy in this world, and how important it is for the rest of the world to, how important US economy is for the rest of the world, stability in US economy. But yet again, because of these bailouts that become quite usual stuff in the USA, there is no reason to believe that CEOs of these banks and multinational corporations will act themselves differently, because there are no responsibilities for them. How many big companies did get bankrupt or get in trouble in previous years since 2008? And how many CEOs of those companies have been brought to justice? Zero. And before this is the case, and almost all of them were bailed out by Washington, and that money was paid by US citizens, isn't it? US taxpayers. So as long as this practice continues, I just don't see how things will change. Because this is not the way a free market economy should work, in my opinion. That's the way that communists were acting, for God's sake, in some sense. Formally, these companies called independent ones, private ones, but when it comes to some real issues, then government is becoming major player, and that's not the right way to deal with these situations. Let them go bankrupt, so that that will be a lesson to other companies, isn't it? But let's continue, and we have a report from RBK News Agency, and this is also about banks. As you know, this banking crisis is active not just in USA but in Europe also, and Credit Suisse, this great Swiss financial institution, Credit Suisse bank, ended up having huge trouble. This bank asked Swiss government for help up to 53.7 billion dollars, if I'm not mistaken, and this bank will receive these funds, as I understand. But right now, Swiss government is conducting negotiations with another big Swiss financial institution, UBS, and these two banks, UBS will basically buy out Credit Suisse. And the deal may be signed tomorrow. So it seems like this way Swiss government is trying to somehow stabilize situation in the banking sector and make sure that Swedish banking system will not lose trust of its customers. But yet again, major problem for Swiss and Swiss financial sector, banking sector, is that they already have lost trust. They did act not as a neutral, and once they began to act as a part of Western anti-Russian coalition, and they did, entire world did see it, and I don't think how Swiss can restore its image now. So of course this Sliania, let me translate this word, this merger between UBS and and Credit Suisse may save Credit Suisse as a brand, but damage is already done, and I believe in coming years, Swedish bank will lose all the benefits that they enjoy while Swiss were acting as a neutral state. Now, I don't think that anyone in outside of Western world will see Swiss as a neutral state. Not after those anti-Russian policies that Swiss introduced. So let's continue now. This is RIA Novosti, according to which in previous year, in 2022, and this is quite interesting news really, because despite thousands and thousands of sanctions from the Western elites, in 2022 Russia became one of the top 10 countries in this world by volumes of its export, which is quite surprising, isn't it? Quite surprising. Probably entire world, except maybe like few percent of the world population, were probably thinking that after so many sanctions of the West, Russian economy will just collapse straight away. But it did not happen, and more than that, Russian economy somehow managed to become a top 10, to become a member of this top 10 club, if I may say this way, of states that are exporting its goods in the world. It's quite interesting. If you want to know which country, also which countries are in top 10, of course it's China, number one, and China's exports are $3.6 trillion. Can you imagine? China's export is 3.6 trillion. Unbelievable numbers, man. Unbelievable numbers. Second place is held by USA, 2.1 trillion. Also unbelievable number. Much behind of China, yes, of course, but still 2.1 trillion is a quite an achievement. Germany is third, 1.7 trillion, but I think Germany will start losing its positions in coming years in significant terms, and all European states also. So Germany is third with $1.7 trillion of export. Netherlands, Holland is on fourth place. It does exports for $760 billion. So fifth is Japan with 747 billion export. South Korea is in sixth place. South Korea is a great example of economical miracle, of course. Economical miracle. I feel sorry that South Korea did act quite hawkishly towards Russia and impose some sanctions, maybe not directly but indirectly, but still one should acknowledge that South Korea is doing great, and it's one of the miracles of Indo-Pacific region, one of the economical vehicles. I hope South Korean government will reconsider its decisions, and relationships between Seoul and Moscow will return to normalcy, normal pace. So let's continue with this top 10 countries. So Italy also in the top 10 with 657 billion of export. France 626, and this is surprised. I was thinking French economy is exporting much more than Italy, but just look at it. Numbers are not lying. So Italy is exporting more than France, which is not truly surprised. It would probably surprise you also. And Canada also in top 10 with 599 billion of its exports. Russia is on 10th place with 591.5 billion. So quite a numbers, really quite a numbers. And as I said, it was a surprise to me that, even for me, it was a surprise that Russia managed to enter this top 10 club of exporter states. Let's continue with news, and this is a report from our team, which said that United Kingdom may have a very difficult decade. RT is using even stronger word, disastrous decade, and we have some numbers here. Even though inflation is coming down in UK, at least that's official reports from London, because of Brexit, and because of some idiotic policies of the official London, British economy really end up in quite difficult situations. And our friends from our community that are citizens of United Kingdom did comment many times about situation in Great Britain, and it's truly, it's truly sad, really, because I used to live in UK, and I have I always liked UK, for God's sake, man. And I'm not happy whenever I see any bad news that will impact ordinary citizens of UK. But yet again, it's policies that UK elites are conducting that are creating these troubles for citizens of United Kingdom. So let's hope this information is too pessimistic. Let's hope that everything will be fine, because yet again, when we are talking about situations in economy, first thing that comes to my mind is life of ordinary citizens, because elites, they're not gonna suffer, isn't it? It's all about ordinary citizens. It's always people like us, man, that have to pay for mistakes that governments are making. So, and this is gonna be last news for today's update, which is quite interesting. Also, RT is reporting Russia today that exit from Russia did cost EU automakers almost up to $700 million, which is also quite a number, isn't it? Of course, EU car makers will survive because, first of all, they are great car makers. And German, Italian, or British cars will always have demand, because they definitely know how to build a good car. But yet again, I mean, 700 million losses is also quite a hit, because this may force, together with the high prices for energy, this development may cause some car manufacturers in Europe to move the plants, for example, to US, and this process has begun already, as I understand. And yet again, who gonna end up in trouble because of this? Ordinary people like us, workers that are working on those plants. So that's one more result of crazy policies that Western elites are conducting. And there is so many such examples, man. So many. So this is it. This is it for now. This is it for now. I hope you find this video interesting, and if so, please consider to subscribe to my channel if you are new. Yes. So please consider to my channel if you are new. Hit that like button if you find this video interesting. Leave some commentary about any topic you like, and please, if you can, share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other internet platform that you are active on. Also, if you can, and if you want to, you can support my channel with small donations through PayPal or by subscribing to my Patreon channel. You will see links under this video in the description box. So this is it for now. I hope you had a great weekend. I wish you a nice day today, and take care. See you soon.